All right, thank you so much for having me today. This is my second virtual event for the National Society of Honor Scholars in the past couple of months. Some of you may have attended our webinar back in May. If you did, I can't believe you came back for more, but thank you very much. For those of you who didn't attend our webinar, how do I pay for college? I know National Honor Scholars has posted a recording of that on their website under the College and Career Series banner. And there's a lot of good sessions out there. So check them out when you can. Some background on me. I'm Chris Earnshaw with Sallie Mae. Been with Sallie Mae for about 6 years now, based up in the Albany, New York area. With me here today are my friends Jean McCarthy and Stephanie Stock. They're going to help me out today with Q&A. So if you have questions, feel free to post them there. And if there's time at the end, and there should be some time, we'll take some questions as well and get those answered for you. Let's get started. I am going to take myself off video so I don't distract myself. So some of the topics we'll cover today include saving for college, how to select a college and how much it'll cost, the FAFSA, what, why, and how, get that filled out, understanding a financial aid offer letter, how to find and apply for scholarships and grants, which is free money. We'll take a look at some education loan options, and we will check out some free tools and resources that hopefully make the process a little easier. So ways to save for college. So you don't have to start with a large amount when you're saving for college, and small contributions can actually add up very quickly. Students can open a savings account, and they can actually designate the savings account as a college fund. And then they can deposit gifts from friends and families directly into that account. You can also sign up for free services that let you earn cash back to save for college. For instance, looking to participate in companies like You Promise, where a percentage of your spending can actually go toward your college savings. You also want to set a goal and regularly contribute money. You may want to open a savings account that helps you set and track your progress toward a goal such as college. And a lot of banks have some apps that you can download that will help you track progress toward a goal. Even a goal like setting a modest goal like $20 a month can certainly help build that account up. And finally, you can explore tax advantage options such as a 529 college savings plan and prepaid college tuition plans. Now, we do recommend that you speak to an investment advisor for information on the options that may be best for you and for tax advice on your own personal situation. Now, education savings accounts or Coverdell ESAs, these allow parents to contribute up to $2,000 per year per beneficiary to be used for qualified education expenses like tuition and fees. These offer a little more flexibility in investment choices than 529 plans and can be invested in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. ESAs also are age limited. The contributions must end when the student turns 18, and withdrawals must be distributed by the time the beneficiary turns 30. Now, UGMA or UTMA accounts, these are uniform gifts for minors or uniform transfer to minors. These are custodial accounts that are set up at a bank and designated for a specific child. These types of accounts belong to the parent till the child reaches the age of majority in their home state, and then the account assets belong to the student beneficiary. These are often used by families in order to transfer assets out of a parent's name. And finally, the savings plan you may most be familiar with is the 529 college savings plan. And this is a tax advantage plan created to help families save for a child's future higher education expenses. Funds from a 529 plan can be used for qualified higher education expenses. Depending on the student's enrollment status, could include tuition, fees, books, computers, supplies, most room and board costs, basically anything associated, with traditional college costs. Unlike the covered L plans, there's no age limit or income limitations on 529 plans. So that's the advantage on those. And that's why we see much more 529 plans versus the covered L plans these days. Now, 529 plans do offer special tax benefits, which do vary by state to state and even within a different plan. Many states offer tax benefits for contributions to a 529 account. These benefits may include deducting the contributions right from your state income tax. That's a significant advantage there. If you do use 529 account withdrawals for qualified higher education expenses, such as or even tuition for elementary school, secondary school, the earnings on the plan are not subject to federal income tax. And in some cases, they're not subject to state taxes either. If they're not used for qualified expenses, they will be subject to state and federal income taxes. And there's also a 10% federal tax penalty on that as well. Now, you own the account and control how it's invested and how it's spent. And anyone can start an account to benefit someone else. It does not necessarily need to be a parent starting it for their child. And depending on the plan you choose, you can choose from among many investment options available. Take into consideration when your child will be going to college and your tolerance for risk. If you have a younger child several years from college, you can be a bit more aggressive while managing the plan and not have to worry about the ups and downs of a typical investment market. It's easy to open an account, and you can set your account to make automatic deposits from your bank account or from payroll deduction. And most states offer plans that you can easily sign up for online on their website. Again, keep in mind, everyone can help. Friends and families can make gifts to the account. You can email out a link if someone wanted to contribute for a birthday or a special occasion. And funds can be used at any accredited college or university, vocational school, many international schools as well, as long as that school participates in the federal financial aid program. Again, just a reminder, always consult an attorney or tax advisor regarding your individual circumstances. So selecting a school and determining cost. So what is the average annual direct cost for a student who lives on campus? Now, these figures are from 2019, and they include tuition and fees and room and board, which is usually housing and meal plans. You can see two-year public colleges are $12,720 per year. Now, more and more community colleges are offering students the full on-campus experience. So this could be a great opportunity for students who maybe are looking to learn a trade. Maybe they're just unsure as to what they want to study. So go to one of the community colleges across your state, knock out the standard courses at a lower cost, then maybe transfer to a four-year school after a year or two once you figure out what programs you're interested in. Now, four-year public colleges, these are your standard four-year state colleges and universities. Typical costs around $21,950 for an in-state student. For an out-of-state student, that cost is $38,330, so significantly more. Finally, four-year private colleges are most expensive at $49,870 on average. Now, keep in mind, these figures are what we call sticker prices, and are all prior to adjusting for financial aid, which are your grants and scholarships. So depending on a student's academic and financial background, these figures could be substantially reduced. So in figuring out the cost, the true cost of college, families should consider both direct and indirect costs. Direct costs, again, are your tuition and fees and your room and board, your housing and your meal plans, and then any other fees that the college may charge, to access the health center, the athletic facilities, the computer labs. These are items that you are directly billed for. On the other hand, indirect costs are other items to consider that the college doesn't charge you for, such as books and supplies, equipment that you may need, including maybe a new computer or laptop. Transportation is an indirect cost. Is the college drivable from home? How much will the gas and the mileage cost? Do you need to fly to get there? And finally, any other personal living expenses. Are you actually living off campus instead of in the dorm? And now maybe you're also paying for internet, electricity, gas, those types of expenses. So here are some tips to help you make the most of your decision. Don't choose a school just because of its reputation and price tag. Make sure that the right education is being offered for the right price. Cost is a huge factor for families and can also be the deciding factor once financial aid offers are received. Compare total out-of-pocket costs and potential loan debt between all schools. If one school that is close to home is a little more expensive than one is a few hours away, is that cost savings really worth it if you plan to drive home often? Just something to think about. Avoid sticker shock. Many state schools can appear to be less expensive than private schools, but may have limited funding to offer students. Whereas more expensive private schools often have additional financial aid funds that can make your costs equal to, or perhaps even a bit less expensive than a state school. Finally, visit as many colleges as you can that offer programs that you're interested in. And if you can't visit in person, and we know the last year or so has been tricky to visit in person, check out the school's website. A lot of the colleges offer 360-degree virtual tours. And also check out their social media again as well, in particular, Facebook and Instagram, to get a good feel of the look of the college. Now we're going to jump into the FAFSA. So the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid, is the form used by the Department of Education to determine eligibility for federal financial aid. Federal financial aid includes your federal Pell Grants, federal student loans, and a few other federal aid programs as well, such as Federal Supplemental Opportunity Grant, and Federal Work Study Program. Now, many states and most colleges also award their own financial aid based on the FAFSA. So even if you think, well, I'm not going to qualify for a federal Pell Grant, I'm not going to bother to complete it, it's still a good idea to fill out the FAFSA because it is submitted to the state and the colleges, and then they'll be able to award the financial aid that you're eligible for. FAFSA opens up for the new year each October 1st. So this October, high school seniors can begin to complete FAFSAs for freshman year of college, which will be in fall 2022. Don't feel you need to get the FAFSA completed right on October 1st, but do realize some colleges may have priority deadlines, November 1st or December 1st, some out as far as March 1st. Every college is different, so just double check their websites to be sure you aren't missing anyone's deadline. Here's a guide to when you can complete the FAFSA. And I know there's a mix of students and families on today, depending on what year in school we're going into. So the blue box is for students who are starting college later this fall. That FAFSA became available last October, and college freshmen can still apply. Depending on the college, financial aid funds could still be available. And there was just some news this week where FAFSA filings are actually down significantly compared to prior years. So there still could be significant financial aid out there for some students. So if you're a student on the line who is beginning college in the next month or two, if you haven't applied for financial aid, it's still not too late. You can still get that in. The green box is a guide for this year's soon-to-be high school seniors. Notice on October 1st, that FAFSA opens up. And then a year later, the process repeats for soon-to-be high school juniors, as the red box indicates. If there are any families or 10th graders on the call, you can add a year to the figures in the red box to determine your FAFSA dates. Now remember, students must complete the FAFSA each year of college. It's not a one-time thing. You do have to do it each year. The good news is the FAFSA does carry over most information from year to year, and they just ask families to update a lot of the income information. Now, I just wanted to give a quick word about financial aid appeals. You'll notice the tax year that they require lags 2 years behind the college academic calendars. So if families experience a job loss or reduction in income due to COVID, or really for any reason, you can file an appeal with the College Financial Aid Office. And the Financial Aid Office can determine to exclude any income that maybe you had in 2019 from the parent who might have suffered a job loss, potentially making the student eligible for additional financial aid. This is a very common process. Fortunately, it's become a very standard process in the last year or so. So keep in mind, if there was a change that's not reflected on the income tax returns, reach out to your financial aid office to see about filing an appeal. The students will first answer a few questions on the FAFSA to determine if the student is dependent or independent. For financial aid purposes, most students under 24 are considered dependent students for financial aid purposes, meaning parent information is required. Students who are married, in foster care, maybe have dependents of their own, or in the armed forces, or veteran, are usually considered independent regardless of age, and parent information is not required in those circumstances. If there's ever any question, refer to the College Financial Aid Office, for assistance. So just a quick note, based on our research from How America Pays for College, again, fewer families are filing the FAFSA, which means they could be missing out on thousands of dollars in financial aid. The latest national numbers for fall 2021, again, show FAFSA is almost down 200,000 compared to fall 2019. So again, there could be a lot more aid available. Even if you don't think you qualify, get the FAFSA filed because you could be eligible for state or institutional aid. Now, the world of college financial aid is littered with jargon and acronyms, and they get really confusing. So here's some common financial aid terms to get to know. Cost of attendance, or COA. COA is the estimated cost to attend for one academic year, which is usually fall through spring at most colleges. As we mentioned earlier, this includes tuition and fees, books and supplies, room and board, transportation, and personal expenses. Colleges will adjust the cost of attendance a little bit each year to reflect any changes in costs. EFC is your expected family contribution, and this is a measure of your family's financial strength and is calculated according to a formula established by law. The information from the FAFSA is used to calculate the EFC, and schools will use the EFC to determine federal student aid eligibility and financial aid. Now, your EFC isn't the amount of money your family will have to pay for college, and it isn't the amount of federal student aid you'll receive. It is simply a data point that the Department of Education uses to measure aid applicants. We touched on special conditions a few minutes ago, such as loss of income. Again, if your family encounters a financial crisis that's not reflected on the FAFSA, contact that financial aid office at each school that you're considering. Examples of an event that could be considered, loss of job, separation or divorce, death of a parent or a spouse, and extraordinary out-of-pocket medical expenses could all be considered. Each school handles some of these situations a little differently. And while no school is required to make adjustments, most schools will work with students and families who are experiencing special circumstances. Now, last thing to mention, you may have been selected for a process called verification. This is a process the school must go through to confirm the information on your FAFSA is accurate. And your school will notify you of the documentation you need to submit. In most cases, this just constitutes a quick form to complete and submit with a copy of your income tax returns. This doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. Students are selected at random, unless something really looks out of place. It's a totally random process. There are some schools, usually smaller private schools, that will choose to verify 100% or every student that files a financial aid application. Again, it's nothing you've done. It's either a random process or just a requirement of the school. So within a few days of completing the FAFSA, the college will receive the information electronically. The college will then be able to subtract your EFC from the college's cost of attendance to calculate the student's financial need. And this means how much need-based federal aid, such as grants, loans, and work study, the student should be eligible to receive. Now, your EFC won't vary by college because it's the same FAFSA you send to all the different colleges, but the amount of aid students receive can vary by college because every college has a different cost and a different availability of financial aid funds. Next, we'll take a look at financial aid offers. So after being accepted to college and completing the FAFSA, students then receive a notification that outlines how much the school will cost and what kind of financial aid they will receive, including federal, state, and school sources. Schools have different names for this: financial aid offer letter. For many years, it was called a financial aid award letter. I still call it a financial aid award letter. I probably always will. Some schools call it your financial aid package. Most schools now send your offers electronically. Some may also still send them out by the mail. Sometimes it's included along with your admission decision letter, and sometimes it's separate. Financial aid is usually divided into fall and spring, or it could be divided into thirds or quarters if you happen to attend a trimester or a quarterly school. It's important that you get financial aid offers from all of your schools to see which has the best deal for you. To make it easy, you can use a worksheet to compare your offers side by side, or you can create your own spreadsheet. Every college presents their financial aid offers in a different format, so it's a good idea to use a comparison tool to differentiate types of aid offered, including your grants, scholarships, and loans for each school. So it's a little fuzzy on the screen here, but Sallie Mae does offer a comparison tool that will calculate the aid and overall costs of the school you're interested in. And that's listed on our Paying for College website that you see there, payingforcollegeresource.com /financial-aid-offers. And easily, if you just go to payingforcollegeresource.com, it's in the letter section. So let's take a look at one sample financial aid offer letter. There's a lot of numbers on this screen, so it does get confusing, but this is what a typical award letter would look like. Now, this is for a freshman student living on campus. The cost of attendance listed at the top. Remember, that includes the direct and indirect costs for a total of $45,000 at this school. This student has an EFC of $1,000, leaving a financial need of $44,000. We use nice round numbers for this example. Next, we apply all the gift aid, which are your grants and your scholarships. We use grants and scholarships interchangeably to denote free money, but a good rule of thumb is grants are based on financial need, scholarships are based on merit, your academics, athletics, demographics. In this example, the student received $20,000 in gift aid, leaving a net cost of $25,000. Now, if this freshman student borrows their maximum federal loan eligibility of $5,500, that leaves a balance of $19,500 that the family and the student need to cover. Now, this is often covered by any outside scholarships that the student might receive, your savings and 529 plans, It could be covered by a tuition payment plan that the school offers. And there's also Parent Plus loan and private student loan options as well. Now you'll note at the bottom there, the students also awarded $2,000 in federal work-study funds. Now, while this will show up on your award letter, students receive this funding in the form of a paycheck throughout the year as they're eligible to actually work on campus. It doesn't go directly toward the paycheck that the student receives. Scholarships and grants. Now, some people think that scholarships are only for scholars and athletes, and while good grades certainly will create scholarship opportunities for you, there are opportunities for everyone out there. For almost every background, skill set, interest, or hobby, there are scholarships out there. The challenge is looking for the right scholarship. It can take time, but students should realize how important the free money can be. So the more free money you get for college, the less you'll need to borrow. Now, scholarships can be awarded for a variety of reasons, as you can see from the list on this slide. And while the federal and state governments do award some scholarships, the majority of scholarship funds are awarded either by the college in which the student enrolls and by private organizations. Here to go. The first place to check is always with your high school guidance office. They will have a comprehensive list of area community scholarships that are available. If you are a person of faith, check with your religious organization where you are a member. Your employer or your parent's employer may offer scholarships for employees or children of employees. And finally, there are some great scholarship search engines online that are free to use. Scholarship search engines work. So they house an aggregate list of scholarships and allow users to be matched based on the personal profile that they create. Always keep your profile up to date. That includes any test scores, your GPA, both high school and college GPA, any clubs and organizations that you belong to, any activities you participate in. Always keep it up to date. Also update it as you go through college. Don't forget about this when you start freshman year. There are scholarships available for all grade levels of college, including up through graduate school. And as more scholarships are posted that match your profile, you'll get an email alert so you can then research the opportunity a little further. Scholarship amounts can vary widely from a couple $100s to several $1,000s. Apply for everything you're eligible for, regardless of the amount. Again, every little bit helps. Just one quick tip to mention, scholarship applications should not cost a fee to apply. If you ask to pay an application fee, just skip it. It's a raffle. It is not a scholarship. Just to again touch on student employment options. Employment programs provide part-time job students. Some students are eligible for federal work study, but most colleges also hire non-work study students as well. There's really no difference. It's the same jobs. It's just a matter if the college is paying you directly or if it's coming out of their federal funds. Now, just about every department on campus will hire student workers, the library, the athletic center, computer labs, the dining centers, most academic and administrative offices, basically everyone. I always encourage students to work on campus when able. The hours are much more flexible. You can squeeze in an hour or two between classes. And if you need time off to study or work on a project, usually the folks at a college are much more understanding than maybe your local restaurant manager or resort manager at work. Now let's take a look at some of the loan options that are available out there. Now, federal direct student loans, these are the loans provided by the U.S. government. They must be paid back with interest. Direct subsidized loans, with this loan, the borrower is not charged interest while in school or during grace or deferment periods. The government basically subsidizes the loan and pays the interest on your behalf. Now, this is need-based, meaning students must qualify financially based on the FAFSA. Direct unsubsidized loans, with these loans, interest is accruing at all times. The borrower is responsible for paying interest as it accrues or once the loan enters repayment. All students are eligible for this loan regardless of financial need. Now, one note, while I say interest does accrue at all times, that's usually true. I will note that since March 2020, last March, the Department of Education paused all interest accrual on all student loans during the pandemic. That pause is expected to end on September 30th. So if you're a current student or if you have no federal loans right now, there's been no interest accruing on those loans for the last year plus. Now, here are the annual borrowing limits available. First-year students can receive up to $5,500, and the limit goes up a little bit each year. Second-year students, $6,500, and then $7,500 in third and subsequent years. $31,000 is the maximum an undergrad student can receive in direct loans. Your graduate student beyond your bachelor program, that limit does increase. You can see the interest rates for this coming year are fixed at 3.73%. That rate is locked in for the life of the loan. New rates come out each July 1st. So if you borrow again in subsequent years, the rate in all likelihood will change. But again, the loan you borrow this year is locked in at that rate for the life of the loan. Now, direct loans does charge an origination fee, and these fees are subtracted from the loan price disbursement. So if you borrow $5,500, $58 fee is deducted from the loan, but you will still owe $5,500 at repayment. That fee is reset each October 1st, but it more or less stays in the low percent range as it has in the last several years. Students receive a 6-month grace period on their student loans, meaning once you graduate, you then have 6 months before your first payment is due. So if you are a typical traditional student for 4 years, you graduate in May of 2026, your first student loan payment would be due, around that November or December 2026. And students can choose between 10 to 25-year repayment term. And deferments are available as well for students who go on to grad school, maybe join the military, or experience an economic hardship. A deferment is available. So PLUS loans are federal loans for parents. Parents can borrow the entire financing gap available after financial aid is applied. It is a credit-based loan. It is not automatic. And this loan is in the parent's name only and not in the student's name. The parent is responsible for repayment. Like the direct loans, the interest rate is fixed and set each July 1st. Do keep in mind, though, that the PLUS loan program charges a 4.228% fee. So if a parent borrows $10,000 on a PLUS loan, $423 is going to be subtracted from the loan proceeds, but the parent is still responsible for the full $10,000. There's no aggregate maximum to the federal, the Parent PLUS loan program. Private student loans are credit-based loans, meaning the borrower must qualify for it. The student is the primary borrower on the loan. However, a student who does not have at least 3 years of credit history will need a cosigner to the loan, which does mean most traditional first-year college students do need a cosigner. And a cosigner is just as responsible for the loan as the student borrower is. The cosigner is often a parent, but unlike the federal PLUS loan, that is not a requirement. It could be, grandparent, aunt, uncle, spouse, anyone can cosign the loan for a student. Be sure to shop around. Every lender prices their loans differently. Many borrowers often see a rate lower than the federal Parent PLUS loan rate. Things to look out for: ask about the lender's death and disability policy and cosigner release policy. Some lenders, like Sallie Mae, offer the ability for the student to remove the cosigner from the loan once the student has graduated and has been successfully making payments for 12 months. Other lenders may or may not offer a similar benefit. Other factors to consider: how long has the lender been in business? Some startup companies may look like a good option, but are you confident they'll be around to fund you in subsequent semesters or in subsequent years? How easy is the application and the approval process? Is your college financial aid office familiar with the lender? Certainly ask them if it's someone you're not familiar with. If you're considering a private loan, just check out the website you see there, salliemae.com/studentloans/NSHSS. So some tools and resources that are available. Families should carefully review the information on their FAFSA. Make sure there are no errors. Errors can lead to delays in processing. Always double check all your Social Security numbers. That's the biggest error that trips up families. They transpose 2 numbers. Nothing gets matched. Nothing gets matched at the college. Leads to delays. So always double check your Social Security numbers. Some students may have to accept or decline their financial aid offer with the school, either online or by returning a traditional signed form to the school's financial aid office. Students don't have to accept all types of aid that are offered in the financial aid award letter. You don't have to take loans if you don't need them, but they'll still be available to you throughout the year if you decide you need some additional help. Financial aid offers, they usually just cover 1 academic year. Again, you have to reapply each year. Understand renewal requirements for all scholarships. Compare the terms and conditions and details of each offer and aid type. Consider more than just the dollar amount, but the bottom line costs of each school. And compare financial aid offers closely. Be sure to look at both the total amount of aid and the types of aid offered. Some schools out there do include a big PLUS loan, in the financial aid offer. It makes it look like you're much more financial aid than you really are. Plus loans aren't financial aid, so if you see that in there, just put that aside. Don't consider that financial aid that you're receiving. So we've had a lot of information in this presentation today. Note that National Society of High School Scholars and the Sallie Mae have a ton of great resources available to you. Please take advantage of our various virtual and live events that we host on different topics throughout the year. Both organizations have a lot of webinars throughout the year, live virtual events, as well as some in-person events. So certainly take advantage of those as you can. And that concludes today's presentation. Thank you so much for your time today. Hi, Chris. Yeah, I'm going to turn to Gina Stephanie and see if they have any questions for me. I'm going to try to turn my camera back on.